Politan, welcome to Closing Arguments, and it is all about the breaking news tonight coming to us out of New Mexico. The case against Alec Baldwin is no more. That case has been dismissed with prejudice. That means it's gone, it's over, he's a free man. He does not have to worry about being prosecuted or re-prosecuted for shooting and killing Halyna Hutchins. I just wanted to put a little bit of perspective on this because some people are saying, well, what does this mean? What does this really mean? Well, what it means is that at the end of the day, we don't learn the truth. We don't learn the truth. The dismissal is not based upon the facts of the case. The dismissal is based upon a constitutional violation of Alec Baldwin's rights. It's the way the prosecution and their investigators handled evidence and did not disclose to the defense. It's called a Brady violation. When you're a former prosecutor like me, you hear those words, your eyes kind of go like this, like, what, a Brady violation? What are we talking about here? We're talking about information that the prosecution and investigators had that was not turned over to the defense. Information that the defense believes arguably could be a reason for a jury to find the defendant not guilty. This is the thing you don't do as a prosecutor. You don't hide, you don't keep potential exculpatory evidence away from the defense. That's not the way our system works. That is a constitutional violation. So as we sit here tonight, it's not about the jury said he didn't do it. It's not about he's not guilty. It's about the case is just gone. It is gone because Alec Baldwin's rights were violated. And when that happens, it's the only way our system can work. Our system has to be honest. I tell you all the time, prosecutors have to present a clean case. They have one obligation, and that is to the truth. Even if that information that you have doesn't help you, you are obligated to give it to the defense. That's the only way it can work. The only way. So the jury never gets to decide this case. We don't have a trial. We don't get to the truth. The jury doesn't tell us what happens. The case is just dismissed. It's as if it didn't happen, and it cannot be brought again. It was a dramatic day, a dramatic moment inside the courtroom. It was a little bizarre, too, what happened today. So we're going to get into all of it this hour. But for those of you just joining us and just realizing what is happening here, and you're like, what? The case is over against Alec Baldwin? Let me show you exactly what happened.
So, dismissal with prejudice is a very extreme sanction. And case law is very clear that because it's very extreme, I have to go through every single element, and I have to make a very good record as to why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. So, in order to establish a Brady violation, the defendant must show that the prosecution suppressed evidence, the evidence was favorable to the accused, and the evidence was material to the defense. So let's go through the elements. Suppression of evidence. The definition of suppression of elements, this is Case versus Hatch, is while the first element requires proof that the prosecution suppressed or withheld the evidence in question, it does not require a finding of bad faith or any other culpable state of mind on the part of the prosecutor. This prong is satisfied. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office and the prosecution failed to disclose the supplemental report to defense and provide defense an opportunity to inspect the rounds collected into evidence that Mr. Teske gave. Is the evidence favorable to the accused? The second Brady element is whether the suppressed evidence was favorable to the accused, either as impeachment or exculpatory evidence. This prong is satisfied. The suppressed evidence is favorable to the accused. It is impeachment evidence, has even been offered in this trial as impeachment evidence, and is potentially exculpatory to the defense. Critically, the exculpatory value cannot be analyzed at such a late juncture because of the non-disclosure. Is the evidence material? While post-trial discovery of evidence under Brady requires a reasonable probability that the result of the proceeding would have been different, discovery of evidence during trial requires an evaluation of whether the late tender has impeded the effective use of evidence in such a way that it impacts the fundamental fairness of the proceedings, and that is State versus Huerta Castro. This evidence is material. The late discovery of this evidence during trial has impeded the effective use of evidence in such a way that it has impacted the fundamental fairness of the proceedings. The defense is not in a position to test the state's theory as to the source of the live rounds that killed Ms. Hutchins. I'm also going to take a look at Harper, State versus Harper. The assessment of sanctions depends upon the extent of the government's culpability, weighed against the amount of prejudice to the state. Quoting Chenard. Let's go through culpability. Our case law generally provides that the refusal to comply with a district court's discovery order only rises to the level of exclusion or dismissal where the state's conduct is especially culpable, such as where evidence is unilaterally withheld by the state in bad faith, or all access to the evidence is precluded by state intransience. The state is highly culpable for its failure to provide this discovery to the defendant. The state unilaterally withheld a supplemental report. Santa Fe County Sheriff's Officer made the decision, and apparently also with the prosecutor, as pursuant to Hancock's testimony, that the evidence was of no evidentiary value and failed to connect the evidence to the instant case. The case agent, as well as pursuant to Hancock's testimony, Ms. Morrissey, was aware of the new evidence and yet did not make an effort to disclose it to defense. The state's willful withholding of this information was intentional and deliberate. If this conduct does not rise to the level of bad faith, it certainly comes so near to bad faith as to show signs of scorching. Prejudice. When discovery has been produced late, prejudice does not accrue unless the evidence is material and the disclosure is so late that it undermines the defendant's preparation for trial. The court concludes that this conduct is highly prejudicial to the defendant. The jury has been sworn, jeopardy has attached, and this disclosure during the course of trial is so late that it undermines the defendant's preparation for trial. There is no way for the court to right this wrong. Lesser sanctions. Under Harper, trial courts possess broad discretionary authority to decide what sanction to impose when a discovery order is violated, State versus Lemire. The sanction of dismissal is the only warranted remedy. The jury has been sworn, jeopardy has attached, and a mistrial would not be based upon manifest necessity. Further, the sanction of dismissal is warranted in this case. The state has repeatedly made representations to defense and to the court that they were compliant with all their discovery obligations. Despite their repeated representations, they have continued to fail to disclose critical evidence to the defendant. Brady and Harper are satisfied. Dismissal with prejudice is warranted. Court also has power, inherent power. Per State versus Lemire, where discovery violations inject needless delay into the proceedings, courts may impose meaningful sanctions to effectuate their inherent power and promote efficient judicial administration. The state's discovery violation has injected a needless, incurable delay into the instant jury trial. Dismissal with prejudice is warranted to ensure the integrity of the judicial system and the efficient administration of justice. Your motion to dismiss with prejudice is granted.
Wow. Wow. Rarely happens. You know something is wrong when that happens. And on the one hand, yeah, it's dismissed, but don't say out loud at any point that he got off on a technicality, because it's a constitutional violation. Our Constitution is not a technicality. It is the supreme law of the land, and that's what happened in this case. So, this incredibly unexpected turn of events, let's go right out to Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, live outside the courthouse in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Kelly, great to see you. I will not be joining you next week. Just so you know, I will not be going to Santa Fe. This thing is over. It's done. An amazing turn of events, unexpected turn of events, obviously. Tell us a little bit about the reaction. We saw a little bit of the reaction of Alec Baldwin. It looks like emotions really took over once he's realizing that this thing is now over.
And Vinnie, you could watch him there as the judge is talking about this, because you can tell that he's starting to think, what's happening here? Is this case going to be dismissed? When she's going through the elements for a Brady violation, she went down them because she wants to make sure that if she gets called back on this, that she made a clear record for this case, going number 1, number 2, number 3, saying that this has impacted the fundamental fairness of this trial. And then when she finally said at the end, and she said it so softly in a way that this case is dismissed with prejudice. At that moment is when you saw Alec Baldwin just completely break down. His wife was behind him. People were consoling her. She eventually stood up. She just began to sob. As you can imagine, the toll that this has taken on them for the last several years. Clearly, we also don't want to forget the toll it's taken on Helena Hutchins' family, the cinematographer who tragically lost her life in this case. But some of the things Alec Baldwin would talk about is, in this case, that he never pulled the trigger. What we heard his defense counsel say in opening statements in this case, it really doesn't matter if he pulled the trigger or not, because he's an actor. He was Rust Harlan on the movie set of Rust, and he was there to act. So major development with the judge dismissing this case with prejudice. Obviously, another major development that happened just prior to the judge making this ruling on the motion to dismiss and granting that for defense counsel, Linda Johnson, the special prosecutor who was appointed in this case to work alongside the lead prosecutor, Carrie Morrissey, she resigned. Why did she resign? Well, Carrie Morrissey talked about that on the stand because Alex Spiro asked her about it, and she said Linda Johnson ended up resigning because she did not agree with the judge's decision to have this motion to dismiss hearing in front of the public. Now, the jurors were dismissed, but we, as the media and many members of the public who came out just to view this case, everyone was able to be in there who wanted to, as long as there was room, to view this motion to dismiss. She ended up resigning, which was another bombshell development in this case, Vinnie.
You know, I was watching Hilaria. She stood up, and the family, like, we can't forget, you know, what this does, right? This has nothing to do with guilty, not guilty. It's just the process of being criminally charged. It's obvious Alec Baldwin has not lived a life as a criminal. He's got 7 children at home. His wife doesn't know if he's going to be home for the next 18 months or not. He doesn't know if his freedom is going to be there. So this is a moment where he realizes this whole chapter now, the criminal chapter, ends. It ends for them. It doesn't end what happened. It doesn't end whatever memories or guilt that he carries with him, if he does, about having a gun in his hand and the gun goes off and an innocent woman is shot and killed right in front of his eyes. Like, that doesn't go away. The only thing that's going away here, though, is what's his life will be like for the next 18 months, which obviously at this point is significantly different.
And Vinnie, you know you have to prep for this. So we were inside the courtroom when the Hannah Gutierrez retrial took place, and she immediately was remanded into custody, which some people felt was kind of a surprise and unexpected because she did not have any criminal record. But what did the judge say when she remanded her immediately into custody when Carrie Morrissey, the special prosecutor, asked? The judge said, this is a death case. Someone lost their life. You're immediately remanded into custody. So if Alec Baldwin had been found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, his family had to be preparing because he may not have been going home. He also could have been remanded immediately into custody if then in charged or sentenced to 18 months in prison and not be home for a long time, which of course is not a long time. As we see a lot of cases, people get a lot of time in prison, 18 months, but still, that's a huge amount of time.
Hey, listen, Kelly, I don't want to do 18 months in prison. Nobody wants to do 18 months in prison. You just don't. I mean, it's a life-changing experience. It's awful. Prisons are awful places to be. For one night, they're awful. 18 months for someone who's lived the life that he has with 7 kids at home. I get it. At the end of the day, though, I don't want anyone to make the mistake that he was found not guilty. It's not about being found not guilty. The case was dismissed. The jury never determined what happened here. And that's the other part of the coin, right? For Helena Hutchins' family, etc. Now, the reason it's dismissed is because of what prosecutors did and what prosecutors didn't do. When I say prosecutors, I mean prosecutors and all their investigators, kind of wrap them all up in once. And Carrie Morrissey, who's been the special prosecutor in this case, testified today in this hearing, like voluntarily went on the witness stand to testify. Let's talk about that for a little bit here, Kelly. What was that like, and what are your thoughts there?
Vinnie, I was inside the courtroom as all of this was beginning to unfold. And so Carrie Morrissey then said to the judge, Judge, I will testify. I'll voluntarily testify. And the judge said to her before she testified, you are going to testify. And then at that moment, I had to walk out of the courtroom and do a hit for one of the other news organizations. And then eventually we did see Carrie Morrissey take the stand. And the judge even in a way tried to dissuade her from taking the stand. But she got up there on the stand to explain in a way as to how this situation ended up happening. She said that this evidence actually would have been great for her case. Why don't we go ahead and listen to some of the things that she said under oath.
So I understood that Detective Hancock had communication with Mr. Teskey about trying to get those rounds, and Detective Hancock was unable to get those rounds from Mr. Teskey. I did not find that particularly concerning because those rounds had never left Arizona. The filming of Rust was in the state of New Mexico. And the rounds that were taken from PDQ went from Arizona to Texas to Albuquerque. So ammunition that is in the state of Arizona that has never left Arizona did not strike me that it had significant evidentiary value. Then, and I will say, I believe I actually saw a photo of it. At that point in time, I was able to look at the ammunition myself, and it was visibly dissimilar than the rounds from the set of Rust.
And so that was Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey testifying. But then on cross-examination, Alec Spiro got his chance. And why don't we go ahead and listen to that?
The truth of this matter is you don't like Mr. Baldwin very much, do you?
You know, that is absolutely untrue. I actually really appreciate Mr. Baldwin's movies. I really appreciated the acting that he did on Saturday Night Live, and I really appreciate his politics.
You told one of the witnesses who disagreed with you during an interview that you thought Mr. Baldwin was a
I do not recall saying that. I know that that was something that Mr. Baldwin would say on the set of Rust. I don't recall saying that.
Do you deny that under oath?
Without having more information, I can tell you that I do not recall ever saying that. And if I did say it, I invite you to point it out to me.
You called him an arrogant to another witness.
To who? To what witness?
I'm asking you, did you call him an arrogant during a witness interview?
I don't believe I did. I don't recall.
Do you deny that?
Without knowing what you're talking about, all I can tell you is that I can't respond if I don't know what you're talking about.
And so Vinnie, seeing the special prosecutor in a case end up taking the stand and try to explain the situation away is just something you don't typically see.
And you don't see a defense attorney have the opportunity to speak directly to the person that's been going after your client, for a couple of years and ask these questions. I mean, it was a shocking, shocking moment. Let's get to the heart of why this was dismissed, though, Kelly. And this part is still, in my mind, not crystal clear. I'm going to try to figure it out in the next 2 hours, but they didn't hand over information about this bag of ammo that this guy from Arizona brought to the sheriff's department, okay? this bag of evidence, what does it show? Like, where did it come from, okay? And what does it prove about the round that ended up in Alec Baldwin's gun? That's what I'm trying to piece together, because this is almost more confusing today than it's been even beforehand. You know, I watched the Hannah Gutierrez trial, and it wasn't clear to me where the round came from. Did this clear it up somehow?
No, I don't think so. And that's one of the things that Carrie Morrissey was trying to say, and especially in her comments after the motion was granted to dismiss this case, saying how disappointed she was because she says they have clear evidence that Hannah Gutierrez Reed is the one that brought the live ammunition onto the movie set of Rust. So why was it dismissed, though? This is the ammunition that a man by the name of Troy Teskey came into the sheriff's office and said that you have all been duped by a man by the name of Seth Kenney. Seth Kenney provided ammunition to the set of Rust, also the props supplier on the movie set of Rust. So he took the stand today. He was questioned, and boy, did defense counsel have a field day with him on the stand, telling him and asking him, oh, okay, so it's very convenient now you don't recall. And then they were talking about an interview that he did with Corporal Hancock, which was actually recorded. He didn't know, I guess, that some of it was recorded. So defense counsel was asking him about that, and then he said, Seth Kenney said on the stand, oh, I recall now. But so what they're trying to say is that the ammunition, it was co-mingled. And so it really was. This is what defense counsel's argument is. It was supplied by Seth Kenney. And Alex Spiro asked him on cross-examination. He said to him, finally, he said, can't we just agree that you did not intentionally provide live ammunition to the movie set of Rust? And Seth Kenney said on the stand, well, we can agree that I didn't at all provide live ammunition to the movie set of Rust. But Alex Spiro, defense counsel's theory here is that Seth Kenney is the one that provided that live ammunition to the movie set of Rust. But it still, in a way, remains a mystery, Vinnie.
And that was the ammunition that this man brought to the sheriff's office, that the sheriff's office and the prosecution didn't tell the defense attorneys about. And they say it proves that Kenney introduced it. I still don't know how that makes Alec Baldwin not guilty, but there is some level of a Brady violation there. So we'll get into it in the next 2 hours. Kelly Craft, you know, I was looking forward to going out, you know, out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, getting to see a part of the country I haven't seen yet, watch this trial, analyze it with you, but it's over. So when it's over, it's over. So great work, Kelly.
Thank you, Vinnie. Was looking forward to having you out here.
Yep. Well, I won't be there. Alec Baldwin's glad that I'm not going to be out there, too, because that means this trial is over,
Yes.
and it is. When we come back, what just happened? I'm going to ask these folks. Our think tank, Ann Bremner, Randy Kessler, and Alex Ariza joining us next.
Did a customs agent commit cold-blooded murder?
Marsha Thompson is accused of fatally shooting her husband as he's lying on a couch.
She's claiming self-defense, alleging that Terry Thompson repeatedly threatened to kill her.
So what really happened inside this home?
Now, a jury will decide the fate of this law enforcement officer.
And Court TV will bring it all to you.
The abused wife or murderer trial, weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Did law enforcement interpret that request to not include this critical evidence?
All of the items that were pulled for the case were under the Rust case number.
Which was a perfect plan.
You're asking me if there was a plan?
Well, I'm saying, whether there was or there wasn't, it worked out pretty well, right? And here, a retired member of law enforcement walks into the precinct, who's known to law enforcement, who turns in the matching ammunition, who tells you it's involved in the case, where there's tons of corroboration, both by what he provides and the history that law enforcement knows about this man. And you put it under a different case number, right?
I'm sorry, what was your question in that long statement?
You put it under a different case number.
Yes, as I was instructed to do so.
Oh, and this is the whole basis for how Alec Baldwin was sent home today, and the case was dismissed. There was information, there was evidence that was taken in by the sheriff's office, but they put a different case number on it, so it never became part of the discovery, the disclosure to the defense. And the defense is up in arms saying, wait, we didn't know about this. If we knew about this, this is information that could determine whether or not Alec Baldwin is guilty or not. It would change everything. And now we've got a jury. So the judge dismissed the case with prejudice. But there are a lot of other things that happened today. Like, I couldn't believe this when the prosecutor got up on the witness stand. Like, the defense didn't call her. The judge didn't need to hear from her, but she wanted to testify. But she testified, so then she's going to be cross-examined by the defense attorney, who's like licking his chops to do it. And Carrie Morrissey, the prosecutor, the special prosecutor in the case, ends up getting proctored. She gets proctored. Take a look.
The truth of this matter is you don't like Mr. Baldwin very much, do you?
You know, that is absolutely untrue. I actually really appreciate Mr. Baldwin's movies. I really appreciated the acting that he did on Saturday Night Live, and I really appreciate his politics.
You told one of the witnesses who disagreed with you during an interview that you thought Mr. Baldwin was a
I do not recall saying that. I know that that was something that Mr. Baldwin would say on the set of Rust. I don't recall saying that.
Do you deny that under oath?
Without having more information, I can tell you that I do not recall ever saying that. And if I did say it, I invite you to point it out to me.
You called him an arrogant to another witness.
To who? To what witness?
I'm asking you, did you call him an arrogant during the witness interview?
I don't believe I did. I don't recall.
Do you deny that?
Without knowing what you're talking about? All I can tell you is that I can't respond if I don't know what you're talking about.
What is happening here? Let's get some insight from our think tank. Joining us tonight, trial attorney, fellow of the American College Trial Lawyers, Ann Bremner, family law attorney and law professor at Emory University, Randy Kessler. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney Alex Ariza. Great to see everyone tonight. Thank you for being here. Ann Bremner, what is going on? What just happened?
Oh my gosh. You know, Vinnie, I was actually watching, I've been watching the whole trial on Court TV, of course, but this morning was just crazy. I'm like, and I started to think, and I sent a note to a couple of people, this case is getting dismissed. And I sent that out pretty early. But now you've got like the prosecutor going, I'll testify, and then getting completely cross-examined, you know, by Spiro, who's doing an excellent job, by the way. And then to basically have this evidence, they basically made the decision, as far as I can tell, that it would send them on a wild goose chase, so they didn't think it was part of the case, right? I mean, they made a decision that they just didn't think it was relevant, therefore it's on a different case number. That's giving them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the bottom line is you just don't do that. I mean, in my whole career of 40 years, I've never seen anything like it.
Randy Kessler, you're the professor. You hear that word Brady violation, it sends shivers through prosecutors. We hear, I think defense attorneys allege it a little too much because we see it in a lot of these courtrooms and it's like, okay, whatever. But this time, this was for real. Like there was actual evidence. Like the judge is actually examining the ammunition in the courtroom herself. She's throwing on gloves. Unreal.
Right, and our system, and law enforcement in particular, is taking a real beating publicly, right, in the media and the press, how bad it is. This is an example of when it works, right? We have protections. And, you know, I think it was Winston Churchill who said about democracy, it's the worst system except for all the others. The system worked, right? The sad thing is this may not have mattered in the case. Had this evidence been produced, it may not have meant a hill of beans to the defense or the prosecution, but because they didn't even give the defense a chance to think about it or use it, it's gone. And can you imagine if lawyers got to always cross-examine their opponent? I mean, that's the dream of a lifetime for the defense lawyer, right? I get to cross-examine the prosecutor. I've been waiting for this my whole life.
Yeah. Alex, let me ask you, you've represented the victims in the Parkland shooting. There are victims here. What are your thoughts about them tonight, knowing that the case against the man who had the gun in his hand, the man who his finger was on the trigger in the rehearsals that we have on video, is going to walk out of that courtroom, not because a jury said he's not culpable, he's not guilty, but because the prosecution, the state, the investigators violated the constitutional rights of the defendant.
You know, the problem that you have, and I'll apologize to you ahead of time because I know you're an ex-prosecutor, but this should have never been brought to begin with. This was like ridiculous to even charge the man. Nobody could put any kind of culpability in his hand or knowledge. And, you know, I understand, and I was around the victims, like you said, in Parkland, but if you can't prove the case, it's not to be able to act out of emotion. We've all been practicing long enough to know it. If we're going to act out of emotion, then we can't even be in the system, and it's going to be an injustice. Let me tell you something. I commend you guys on Court TV, because don't think for 1 minute you guys weren't keeping them straight, okay? And that's really what the judge was very brave and doing the right thing, and I commend the defense attorneys, because, you know, they were going, they knew, and I could watch them working, they knew this case should have never got as far as it got. And you know what? I think my thoughts are, once when the judge was seeing this Brady violation, this desperate attempt by the prosecutor to get up there, these guys, you know as well as I do, in a manslaughter case, you don't get a 1 or 2 year prosecutor, you get experienced people up there. So don't tell me for 1 minute that they weren't acting in bad faith, okay? I'm telling you something, you can see this man, an actor and everything else, then you see him break down like this. You know, he did not break the law. There's no way on your they'd have a hard time keeping meeting a civil standard. So it's ridiculous that, don't think for 1 minute this guy isn't punished, okay? And you know what, I'd go as far as he has grounds for malicious prosecution.
Well, I think he's got to move on, Alex. He's got to move. He's got to move on. He's got 7 kids at home. I don't think he has time for that. He's got to make his reality show. He's got scripts he's got to go through, but we'll see. All right, everyone's with us for the rest of the hour. We're out of time for this segment, though, Alex. We've got more coming up. We're going to talk a little bit more about what happened today, and what about Hannah Gutierrez, the one who's already been convicted. Does this mean anything for her and her case?
Okay,
we have rounds here.
Okay, now, so this is the one I'm pretty sure is that's the one, and okay, sorry.
You're okay,
sorry.
just relax, just relax.
So scared.
You're all right, just relax.
So here's the box that I got them out of.
Okay, leave them right there. Leave them right there, okay? Relax, okay? Just take deep breaths and relax. Can somebody get water for her? Yeah, now the helicopter's here for her.
Is she, where the are these entry wounds? Is she okay?
I don't know anything, I just, okay, what I'm gonna have you do is sit in here, okay?
Arrested?
You're not arrested, the door's gonna stay open.
Oh my God.
Just relax.
There you see the almost immediate reaction of Hannah Gutierrez. She ended up getting convicted at her trial. She's serving 18 months in prison. So how does everything that happened today that set Alec Baldwin free impact or affect her? I think what we have to remember is this so-called Brady material, this exculpatory material that Alec Baldwin was talking about, actually came from a witness who was on her witness list for her trial. But it was a witness who was never called. And he was in town because he thought he was going to testify. And he had the ammo with him at her trial, you know, waiting to be called. Defense decided not to call him. So then he didn't know what to do with the ammo. That's why he brings it to the sheriff's office. Bizarre circumstances. Let's bring back in our think tank, Ann Bremner, Randy Kessler, and Alex Ariza with us. Okay, Randy, so unpack this a little bit. So this, I don't think anything that happened today will necessarily help her if the information and material that Alec Baldwin didn't get in discovery started from a defense witness from Hannah's trial, Hannah Gutierrez's trial. So it's a strange circumstance.
Right. From the legal scholarly position, you're exactly right. The intellectual position, the law, you're right. But it's bigger than that, right? This is a very public case, and maybe that's the side benefit to her. She's not a public figure. This case has had so much publicity. Does this prosecution department want to have any more PR? There could easily be a deal where there's reduced time, credit for time served, some sort of plea to a lesser charge. I agree. Legally, it's probably not a good case to be set aside, but do they have the energy to really go through this and to fight another battle when they've been disgraced, in essence? They want this to go away, in my opinion.
Alex, what are your thoughts here? Is there any way that that Hannah Gutierrez can use the developments today to help her situation behind bars? This was a witness that was on her list, so they clearly knew about him.
But it's like the professor just said that from a technical point of view, it really doesn't. I think with Alec Baldwin, the judge just had enough, and the Brady violation it just turned it into a complete circus. And I think from a practical point of view, I can tell you that a prosecutor getting up on the stand was an act of desperation, and I don't think they want any part of a public trial again. And I commend you guys again, because that public trial is I think one of the other prosecutors did not want this to be a public trial or a public motion. Well, you're seeing why. And I don't think they want any part of anything public again. And so I think that they'll wait till everything cools down and try to negotiate something, because they don't want to be humiliated again.
And Bremner, it's really
and that'll come up in the next trial.
Sure. And it's the way this all went down. It was like Hannah Gutierrez is on trial. Her attorney, who's going to join us next hour, tracks down this witness who has this ammo with him, decides not to use him as a witness in the case for whatever reason. We'll find out.
Right.
And this witness ends up being the key to unlock the door to set Alec Baldwin free.
Yeah, right. And how the prosecutor could try and hide any of that in light of the use of this witness and the knowledge about the witness is just amazing to me. I agree with both learned counsel here. I mean, there's no basis she has legally to use this to get a dismissal herself. But think about one thing. Is there, where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, there are other things that they failed to disclose to her? Are there other kind of smoking guns in this prosecution? Because I'm sorry, but you were a prosecutor, Vinnie, I was a prosecutor. This is just outrageous, what they did. And I think if they did it here, there may be other places that you could look at in terms of, moving to a trial late, of course, but at least to look at whether she's got similar issues in her case.
Randy, the other thing, we didn't know what to expect from Alec Baldwin in a courtroom, outside of a courthouse, but, I'm not necessarily an Alec Baldwin fan, but I will say that as a criminal defendant, he comported himself 1,000% appropriately at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's some comments, and he walked out maybe to go to the bathroom at one point in time, but that culmination, that ending, you couldn't script a better ending, and, he's still suffering. He's still, feels the guilt, I'm sure. He's going to pay his penance wherever. This is not an easy process on him, but gosh, that was something to watch. And it's nice, it's sort of heartwarming to see that, justice can happen. And you can't get away
wait.
No, don't start with he's not guilty. He's not guilty, Vinnie.
There's two types of justice here. The first justice is the truth comes out in court. And the truth comes out when you have witnesses and testimony, and a jury of our peers tells us what it means. This is a constitutional violation. Yeah, it's justice for Alec Baldwin to not have his rights violated, but it's not justice for Helena Hutchins and her family. The truth didn't come out. No trial, no truth.
Vinnie, you are innocent until proven guilty. He was not proven guilty. I'm innocent. You're innocent.
You're presumed innocent, but the truth doesn't come out. Helena Hutchins was shot and killed. She did nothing wrong. She did nothing wrong.
So you're going to sacrifice Alec Baldwin in the process?
No. It's not about it. And Alex, I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a trial allows us to hear the testimony, see the evidence, and let a jury make a decision about what it means. Like, it's almost, he had the gun in his hand, his finger was on the trigger, and he shot her. The question is, was it a crime or not a crime?
No, Vinnie, even if he was acquitted by jury, all you would say is they didn't find it beyond a reasonable doubt. People might, if he went all the way to verdict, we would never say he was cleared, he's absolutely not guilty. You would just say they did not.
No, we would say that the conscience of the jury, of the community, came to a conclusion that this type of conduct, you should not be held criminally responsible. And that's what I was just waiting to see. It's not going to happen. Hopefully Hollywood learned their lessons, and they're going to be even more careful than they already are.